Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And that's right, Purple Daily. It's Judd. It's Declan. It is a Thorsday. Mackie on assignments, so he is not in today. He'll be back tomorrow. But who needs Phil when Thor Nystrom, our buddy, of course, from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, joins us for Thorsday. And not only does he join us for Thorsday, this is a very special one because it's the first Thorsday post the National Football League's free agency period starting on Wednesday. And so for the first time, at least in your appearances this time, Thor Nystrom, leading up to the draft, we're going to be able to talk to you about sort of how things are shaping up, and we know a lot more, and it's going to make, I think, the mock drafts a little bit simpler as far as expectations. So let's get right to it. Your thoughts on Kirk Cousins' departure, not just from a Kirk Cousins standpoint, but most importantly, what this means to the Vikings. We know Sam Darnold is in on a 1-year short-term contract. What do you think this means?
Good for Kirk Cousins. You know, the contract he signed with the Falcons, the Vikings wouldn't even have been able to match it. So, I mean, like, there's nothing really to discuss as far as that goes. I think, you know, we all had a preference of the outcome that occurred happening. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy about the direction that the Vikings are going. I'm happy about the fact that the Vikings are currently projected to be number 1 in the NFL in salary cap room in 2025. Happy about the fact that the Vikings appear to be on the precipice of taking the first-round rookie quarterback that we have been begging for so long. I think everything is looking good so far, and I love the moves that Kwesi has made early in free agency.
Thor, what do you think about Sam Darnold? Because everyone sees Sam Darnold sign and goes, oh, there's your QB1. Here you go, Vikings fans. This is what you get when you move on from Kirk. But he's obviously a bridge guy. He's going to make just like $10 million. But is there actually something to be made with Sam Darnold playing in Kevin O'Connell's offense? Is it more than just he's going to be a clipboard holder? Could he actually maybe hold down the fort a little bit for like the first month of the season?
Maybe he'll get the first snaps the first month of the season, but he is only being brought here to be the mentor to the new guy. I thought the takes that were out there about, oh, you let Kirk leave and you're choosing Sam Darnold over him were disingenuous at best. That is not what is going on here. You have clearly given that contract to Sam Darnold or whoever it was going to be, a 1-year contract, in order so that you can take your first round quarterback in April. This was a 3-step process, not a 1-step process. Kirk leaves in free agency, sign a 1-year stopgap guy, draft a quarterback in the first round in April. We have reached through the first 2 steps. The 3rd step is coming.
And let's talk about step 3, because that is the step that's going to be near and dear to the heart of Thor and the whole Thorsday persona that goes with it. You did so on Monday when the legal negotiating period started. You did your first mock draft 1.0. And you had a very interesting scenario at number 5. Why don't you talk about that, and why don't you tell us how realistic you think that is as far as the Vikings identifying, trading up, talk about 3-step process, and securing their quarterback of the future?
Yeah, I think the Chargers are a natural trade partner for the Vikings. There's obviously a pre-relationship between the Vikings front office and Jim Harbaugh. They had extensive conversations with Mr. Harbaugh before they hired Kevin O'Connell. And Harbaugh, I think, would be incentivized taking over the Chargers on a couple different fronts. Number one, the buckets of positions that the Chargers need, they're going to be able to find those at 11 and get better value there, I think, than just sticking at 5 and taking them, and then getting multiple first-round picks in the future as well. So, like, you know, the guys that you see mocked to the Chargers, for instance, Brock Bowers is not a guy that I think you can take at number 5 overall. You can absolutely take him at number 11. It's far more palpable. Or if offensive tackle, I love Joe Alt. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to say, would you rather have Olu Fashanu and an extra first round pick or Joe Alt? Well, I'm taking Fashanu and the extra first round pick, or Fuaga and the extra first round pick, or whatever that looks like. I think the Chargers are going to have every incentive to trade down. And fortunately for the Vikings, the team that it appears that they are competing with for the QB4 right now in terms of jockeying for position, the Denver Broncos. Jim Harbaugh is not going to be incentivized to do business with Sean Payton, someone who is in his division. He's not going to hand Sean Payton his son, JJ McCarthy, the guy that Jim Harbaugh believes should be the #1 overall pick in this draft. He's not going to be like, yeah, Sean Payton, I see the Denver Broncos situation. You are clearly desperate here. I'm just going to hand you the guy that I believe is the best player in this draft. That's absolutely not going to happen. So, like, on a couple different ways of looking at this, things are breaking right for the Vikings right now.
So, Thor, I saw the updated odds on JJ McCarthy, and the Vikings odds have gone up even more. I believe it's like plus 190, which is honestly pretty insane. I believe it was. I'm gonna I saw DraftKings updated it on Wednesday night, and yeah, it's plus 195. And the next closest team, the Broncos, being plus 380. So quite a jump there. Are they also, though, assuming, Thor, and I don't know if you have like the exact science of these odds, but if they take JJ McCarthy and the Vikings are the favorite, are they implying that Vikings will probably trade up to get JJ McCarthy? Because him falling to 11 probably isn't as likely, correct?
I would assume so. Yes. I mean, like, you have the thing where if right now you projected it, you would project the quarterbacks to go 1, 2, 3, just like they did in the Dante Culpepper draft. And then after that, you have the danger zones for the quarterback. Number 6, predominantly right now, the Giants remain a clear and present danger for that. They did sign they did sign Drew Lock. They have Daniel Jones and DeVito still there, but there's been media reports that they will still consider taking the quarterback there. And then, of course, you have to box out the Broncos behind you. So that's sort of the three-dimensional chess that you're working with there. I don't know that when we get to late April, if Kwesi will be able to afford to sit back in the 11 slot and just hope after the quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, that what happens in 1999, Kismet kisses the Vikings again, and that fourth quarterback falls down to them. I'm not sure about that. I would feel a lot more comfortable trading up, but you still have we got 6 weeks left. You have a lot of time. You've done a lot of scouting. You guys had Doogie on in the fall when Doogie had the great reporting that the Vikings front office and the scouts were out in the field doing deep work on this quarterback class. I thought that was, great indication of the direction that this thing was going, whatever. But you also now have the 6 weeks, if you're Kwesi, to play poker. You not only, what the incentive is of Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, but now you need to get the read of the teams above you. What are they looking to do? Where does it appear that they are going to go in the direction of their picks? That's what you're trying to figure out. Would the stream, is there any chance that he could, the fourth quarterback could fall a little bit further than we thought? Or indeed, are we going to have to move up into, whether it be 3, 4, 5, somewhere like that?
Is there a concern at all that the Cardinals could be convinced to trade their pick at 4? That's the one thing, because I like your thought process, and I do think that the Chargers 5 position, because it's obtainable. Like, if you go up to 3, you're giving up 2 more first-round picks? You're swapping first-round picks, giving up 2 more first-round picks. Do you think, Thor, that there should be, if the Vikings were to work a trade with the Chargers, would you have any concern that somebody could get that Cardinals pick, or do you think that they're probably dead set on staying at 4 to take a receiver?
Yeah, in every single mock draft, you see Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona, but I don't think that is the fixed outcome that has been portrayed. That front office that took over in Arizona, they already showed their prerogative last year was to try to accumulate draft assets and equity and everything like that to try to rebuild what was a barren roster at that point. It's still pretty barren, right? I mean, they're not one player away from being a Super Bowl contender. Right. And if I'm what's the fella's name, Monty Austinford or whatever, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a freak, and he is an awesome prospect. I totally agree with that. However, if you're looking at the board from the perspective of Monty Austinford, you look at the rest of the wide receiver class. It's not only good at the top, it is good all the way through. This is a crazy deep receiver class. So if you're Austinford, you're like, well, if we took one at the top of the second round, that would be a good value in that slot. Maybe a guy that generally in a regular class would go late first round. And if we take one in the end of the second round, that's a guy that maybe would go early in the second round in a general class. Why would we not take a Brinks truck offer to move back And then, we get the more picks. We have more equity to plug our holes, different stuff like that. We're still going to be able to take a receiver later on that would be a good value. I think it's at least something that Arizona is going to actively listen to. They're not going to hang up the calls when they get one with trade offers for that pick.
And that's Denver, though. So my concern is that the Cardinals would do business with the Broncos, and then they would jump you potentially. Like that's my question is if you go up to 5, are you in really good shape there, or do you stand the threat of the Cardinals work a trade with a non-conference opponent in the Broncos, and now you're screwed because the QBs potentially then go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're at 5, and you're like, okay, what do we do here now?
Yeah, it's one of the, so if you're going to do the trade with the Chargers, that's one where you have to do it when the Chargers are on the clock with that fourth quarterback on, still on the board, whatever. You can't trade up with the Chargers right now. You could do it with the Cardinals, or you could do it with the Patriots, because at least if the Vikings see the quarterback board as I have from the beginning, which, as you guys know, I've always forwarded this as big 4 quarterback class. If they can get any of the 4, I'm fine with that. I do have a preference. Everyone has their flavor. I have mine ranked the top 4, just like anyone else. But any of those 4 guys would do for me. But that's sort of how you're looking at this thing.
So Thor, are they still trying to maybe orchestrate that trade pre-draft, or is it more likely that they do move up probably on draft day? Because I feel like if their plans are, if we can figure out how to move up before the draft, then they know which quarterback they're going to take. But if those trades maybe fall through on draft day, I think like a trade back does seem more likely, to your point of accumulating more picks and just having more shots at other positions. Is a trade on trade working out before draft day probably still in the cards for them, or is it more likely to take place on the night of?
I think the trade, like if it was to happen before draft day, I think that would be with the Patriots pick. I don't know what the Patriots' intention is, right? Like they had the old guard there for years and years and years, and now you have new guys making some of those decisions. And we have heard different reports from credible reporters on different sides of stuff as to how the Patriots see the board, as to the Patriots' intention with that pick. It's been all over the place. So I don't know who to listen to, who to trust as far as that goes. I mean, there's some people that think they stick and pick the top quarterback on their board. Some people that think that they only like 2 quarterbacks in this class, and if one of those 2 guys isn't there, they're going to look to trade down. Some people think they might go off the grid and take Marvin Harrison Jr. there. So there's all sorts of different things. But if indeed they are thinking about trading it, if one of, let's say the report is true that they have 2 quarterbacks very clearly at the top of their board. The report that has been out there from some people is they have Caleb and Jaden Daniels at the top of their board. If Washington were to take Jaden Daniels, and let's say that the Patriots don't like Drake May, there has been reports about that. Maybe then, they see that coming in advance. This is a couple weeks before the draft. Maybe that's when you could engage them in trade talks and potentially make that jump up. But yeah, you couldn't do that with the Chargers pick because of the scenario where Judd's talking about, where you'd feel good. We got the 5th pick. We're going to get one of these quarterbacks. And all of a sudden, Sean Payton's like, not so fast, my friends. And now he's calling the Broncos. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
I'm sorry, the Cardinals.
So in your mock, you've got, obviously, as we just talked about, JJ McCarthy going to the Vikings at 5 in a pick that they obtain on draft night, or with the Chargers on the clock. What do you think? What do we think the compensation is there? Like when we're talking about the possible compensation packages of putting in calls to the Patriots, the Cardinals, and Chargers. And I think the Patriots and Chargers are probably the most likely to actually talk to you. What's the compensation package different in your mind, Thor, or from what the charts say at number 3 compared to 5? How much less do you have to, in addition to swapping your 1 at 11, how much less or more in the case of the Patriots do you have to pay in a potential trade? Yeah,
so with the 5th pick, it would be your 1st round pick next year to get it done. You might have to toss in a 6th round pick or something as garnish, your 7th round at the end of the negotiation to get him to submit it to the commissioner. But the bones of the trade is 11 and your 1st round pick next year for the 5th pick. That works with the trade charts, whatever. If you're starting to talk 3, that's where it becomes, just moving those extra 2 spots up, that's where it becomes, and this is where I get scared, because this is what I do not want to do, is give up 2 future first round picks. I'm okay sacrificing the one because you are getting, as we've discussed ad nauseum, heading into 2025, you are projected to be the number 1 team in the NFL in salary cap space. There's only 2 ways to build up a roster, to build a contender. You only have 2 resources. You have draft equity, you have salary cap space. I would be okay. This year they have to take their pill as far as the salary cap goes. If they're able to get the quarterback, especially if it is the right one, it doesn't matter if you have your first round pick next year. All that matters is that you have the correct quarterback. If they have that guy on the rookie scale contract, and all of a sudden you have this war chest to cap room, hopefully you have secured Justin Jefferson and Darisaw long term. That's when you start cooking with gas. But yeah, that to me, it becomes a little bit cost prohibitive when you're talking about the Patriots pick, because very minimum, whether it is the 2 first round picks, maybe if they felt like they were in a bad spot, they'd be like, you know what, you can keep the other first round pick, but we're going to need your first round pick next year. We're going to need your the 42 pick this year. So we're going to need 11. We're going to need 42. We're going to need your first round pick next year. And maybe they would ask for like a third next year and some other garnish pick as well. But even that's becoming, you're starting to become a little bit cost prohibitive because we need those assets to build this roster up.
All right, well, let's go the opposite way then, Thor. It is reckless speculation Thursday. So let's say actually it is a trade back. So they go from 11 to 15. They accumulate some extra picks. They'll take, Jared Verse, or they'll take a defensive lineman edge guy at 15. Is there a chance they repeat the Teddy Bridgewater plan, trade back into the first round, and maybe take, Penix or maybe Bo Nix at like 30 or 31, 32 towards the end, so they can have that fifth year option built in? Is that still a strategy that they could maybe even implement if they were able to move back to, get a couple more ammunition and then get back into the first round and make 2 first round picks?
Declan, I'm going to forgive you for putting it out into the universe that the Vikings could take Bo Nix in the first round. But no,
Michael Penix. Let's say Michael Penix.
Michael Penix. Yeah, Michael Penix.
How about that?
Michael Penix, from a talent perspective, it wouldn't be crazy egregious. Like, I think he should go early second round, the top half of the second round. Do I think it'd be a little bit of a reach in the back half of the first? Yeah, I do. But that wouldn't be egregious. Taking Bo Nix in the back half of the first would be absolutely egregious. It'd be fireably egregious. I think you're taking your quarterback again in a year or two if you end up doing that. But one of these couple teams is going to get boxed out of one of those top 4 quarterbacks. Whether we all hope, of course, especially it being Sean Payton. I mean, Sean Payton, a loathsome person, the bounty gate, the whole deal. That we hope that it is them that gets boxed out. But if it is the Vikings, yeah, you do have to consider those scenarios, right? I mean, this is a board game where it can go all different ways, right? And you only get to play the one character, right? And there's 31 other ones out there that you're competing with, whatever. If it happens that you get boxed out, yeah, I mean, you would probably trade down in that scenario. I would be looking. I've said that I don't think the Penix is the best fit for the Vikings for what KOC does in his offense, but I think there's modifications that could be made. But I would be hoping to take him early second round, and then we're more or less punting this coming season. We're hoping to build up our draft equity for next season, where we'll also have all the cap room.
Absolutely. Let's get on to topics beyond quarterback, and because the free agency period actually, I think, is clearing some things up as far as personnel needs. But before we do that, quick shout out to the exclusive personal injury law from a Purple Daily. That's right. That is Nicolay Law. There's Russ right there. He and his firm know that when you or a loved one gets injured, guess what? Ordinary life, it can come to a stop and things get complicated. During that time, insurance companies are likely to pressure you. They don't care if you get better. They don't care if your bills are piling up, and they don't care that you may not be able to work. But Nicolay Law, that guy right there, they do. They've seen every play the insurance companies have in their deep playbook, and guess what? They know what to do. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY, nicolaylaw.com. That's NICOLET. All right, Thor, let's talk about your opinion of what the Vikings move. And guess what? With some cash, they were pretty aggressive. What they've done defensively, Hunter is gone, but 2 edge guys are in. Blake Cashman, linebacker, is in. They
welcome home.
Aaron Jones, which I think is, if he stays healthy, is a great move. Replaces Madison, so with what you've seen thus far from the Vikings signings, how has that changed your opinion of the draft from a non-quarterback standpoint?
They've addressed some of those needs, and they've done so at cap appropriate terms, right? The 1 year deals are great. The Aaron Jones contract, I was like, oh my gosh, 1 year, $7 million for Aaron Jones.
He wants to stick it to the Packers right there.
Yeah, well, that too.
Good for him.
That was absolute Christmas. So that was fun. But even the multi-year signings, all of them were really good contracts at the per year that you gave out. So all that stuff is good. You're retaining the cap space going forward on terms with good players that are going to be in the starting lineup. The defense in general is the thing that the Vikings had to address. I like that they got on top of that without leveraging that cap space for the future. Too bad. The Van Ginkel terms I thought were awesome. I thought it was really good bringing in Bullard. Of course, he did that little two-step. It was almost a challenge trade. We'll take your edge. You can have back Daniil. We're going to take Blake Cashman too in that transaction. So I thought that thing was fun. I think it's super fun that Blake Cashman's coming back. I love Blake Cashman with the Gophers. He was someone I banged the drum for his entire process. Had some injuries earlier in his career, but obviously came on huge last season. He's a guy, he'll do anything for you. He'll play every single special teams unit that you want. He flies around defensively. He's going to go sideline to sideline. Showed some coverage chops last year as well. So I'm very excited about all that different stuff. And again, like you're retaining all that flexibility going forward into the future. So it's sort of a two-pronged attack. And I think they've done a very good job of sort of threading that needle so far.
Thor, it seems like, too, with the signing of Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler being obviously the backup or maybe 1A, 1B, and Madison being cut, I do feel like that probably takes out them taking a running back. Maybe they take a flyer on one like at the back end of the draft, but I do think that probably removes a need, right, for them to probably draft a running back within the first, 5 rounds.
It certainly takes the gun away from their temple on it, right? Like in the previous mocks that we had done, we were given the Viking, it was like the 3rd, 4th round pick every single time that was just like the running back pick because you had to take a kid that could come in and play immediately, whether that was over Ty Chandler, or whether that was in conjunction with Ty Chandler. Now that you have Aaron Jones there, yes, that knocks running back from, after quarterback, maybe your 3rd or 4th biggest need. Now it knocks it way down the board, maybe to your, 7th or 8th. So yeah, you're right on the fringe of, are you going to use a pick on this or not? I might still advocate for taking a guy in the 6th round. I think there's going to be values to be had there and a guy that could mix and match with those two guys. And if Aaron Jones has a great year and all of a sudden his market is robust next off season and he leaves and the Vikings recoup a comp pick for him walking out the door and they got one great season on cheap terms out of him for that. Now you have a young running back you got a year of evaluation on. Like that's the way that you play the running back thing. The way you don't play it is doing what the Packers just did and giving out a long-term big money contract to a free agent running back.
Shall we mock Declan? Thorsky?
Yeah, we can mock.
Let's do it.
Shall we mock? Because there's different needs
here.
now too. I think we're all going to probably be in agreement on the 1st round pick potentially. But beyond that, I think edge is sort of out a little bit. Defensive tackle still in, cornerback probably in. So lots of interesting propositions here. But Declan is going to run this mock because if you had me do it, Thor, we'd be sitting here for 3 hours and I couldn't get it done.
Yeah, we need Mackie for this. He is the maestro of the PFF
Declan's
mock
okay.
machine.
Declan's young, smart enough,
I would
mock.
prefer, not to be the Ryan Grigson to Mackey's Kwesi necessarily, but I guess that's where we're at here today, boys. So I'll
consider
gladly.
Phil's more like the Mozart of the PFF simulator. Like he knows all the different sliders and everything. He's like me playing NCAA football on PS3.
Here's the question. Have you talked to your friend at PFF yet? Because the last time that we did this with you, PFF's mock was way off its game.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to, but then I realized if I send him a DM about that, it's just going to be criticizing him for the ranking. So I don't, my bedside manner, you could argue it could use some improvement. You guys might have to formulate that message for me so I could send it.
Fix your screwed up rankings. How about that? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, so Vikings obviously on the clock at 11. We haven't started the draft yet. Thor, did you want to move up to 5? Did we want to try to do that before the draft starts? Is that something you want to do, or should we let the board play out a little bit? What do you think?
So we'll see when PFF starts making this harder for us, but we know because of the way that they have their ranking set up that one of those quarterbacks and probably two is going to fall to us 11. So in this exercise, we don't have to trade up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will start the draft here.
Unless they've updated them overnight and we get boxed
I'll
out.
say
But yeah,
this.
we can go slow.
I'll stop at 5, and then we'll kind of assess here.
All right.
Oh,
So,
that is different.
3 quarterbacks
Wow.
off the board to start. All right, so first 5 players off the board. Caleb Williams of the Bears, Drake May to the Commanders, Jaden Daniels of the Patriots, and then Joe Alt to the Cardinals and Rome Odunze to the Chargers.
Have the Cardinals lost their freaking minds in this simulator?
Yeah, that crazy
Big tackle
scenario.
to protect Kyler. You know, I
On
can do that.
a couple nights ago, I did like 30 different simulations trying to get it so that 3 quarterbacks would go at the top. And no matter how I switched the sliders, I could not get PFF to give the Patriots the quarterback in the 3 slot. So every time it was Daniels and McCarthy falling to me at 11. Maybe PFF did hear my complaints about and now they've changed it. This is the scenario I think where we would consider the trade up. So I think now
Titans?
we can engage. We can engage the Giants on this. The Giants do have 3 quarterbacks under contract. They would be the team that maybe would consider a quarterback. But I also think if they got a decent trade down offer, I think that they would consider that as well. You have an administration there that cannot have another disastrous season or they're going to get fired.
Yep.
So would they really take JJ McCarthy and then he's sitting behind Jones-Locke for half a season or a full season? The next administration is going to get to enjoy the fruits of JJ McCarthy's development. I think they would consider a trade down in this scenario.
All right, so a proposed trade here, and this has a 91% chance of being accepted. So a swap, obviously, in this year, and then the Vikings would just give up round 2 of next year, and that is a 90% chance of being accepted.
Can we haggle with them a little bit?
What do you want to do?
You want what would you like back? So they got 6, 47, 70, and then they have a big
What
gap.
about their 4th next year back as well?
Their
Or their
4th
4th or
next
5th
year
next.
back.
Yeah, let's see what they say.
So that lowers the chances by about 10%. The 5th lowers it by about 5%.
Yeah, that's what I want. We'll do a pick swap with them.
Okay.
For
Pick
next
swap
year.
with them,
Yeah.
give up next year's round 2, and when we get do you want round 5 from next year's back, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
okay,
we'll
so you're good
just
with this.
swap in the next one.
All right, so I'll offer this trade here. I butchered this, by the way. Speaking of being the maestro like Phil is, I totally butchered this the other day on Purple Daily on Draft. So I'm going to offer this trade.
Okay.
Not accepted.
Oh boy.
They said
We're in
no.
trouble.
So 85%. We had a 15% chance
right.
of them saying no.
All
and
right,
they
fine.
said no.
They can keep their pick next year. We'll give them 11. We'll give them the 2nd round pick next year to move up to 6. How about that?
Okay, let's try this again. Oh, they still said no, even though it was a 90% chance of being accepted.
We kick in like 188. We kick in some garnish, something like that.
Garnish. Yeah, try it.
How about 157?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. All right.
Yeah.
Come on, Giants.
Let's just get this trade
Okay.
done.
All right. We did.
All right.
I
We
didn't even
absolutely did it.
Marvin Harrison dropped down here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
The Cardinals took a tackle.
Yeah, the PFF.
I mean, Alt's good, but what?
PFF is all over the place right now. But yeah, we're taking McCarthy. This would be wild if Marvin Harrison Jr. was here. This is not going to happen. But yeah, we're taking JJ.
Draft,
Speed up the
draft party just blew up.
Yeah.
The draft party
God.
just went
Exploded.
crazy.
The fall of Marvin Harrison Jr. Everyone would be
Yeah.
like, "What's wrong? What went on? What information got out there?"
Yep.
All right, boys. So Vikings back on the clock at 42. I'll give you a little rundown of maybe who else went after the Vikings traded up with JJ McCarthy. So, back-to-back wide receivers. Harrison Jr. obviously to the Titans. Man, Harrison Jr. and then they got Calvin Ridley. They overpaid for Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley for Will Levis in Tennessee. Malik Neighbors, Kirky boy, gets Malik Neighbors to throw to. Interesting little move there. Tackle run, then that run on all those defensive edge players starts to happen a little bit. Around 11 and 12. Let's see here. Cooper DeJean goes to the Steelers at 20. Chop Robinson falls to 23.
Oh, your guy
He
Chop
didn't fall into our lap again.
at 23. Chop, you know what? Chop stock rising, no
He's
question.
moving up. But we can't get him
And-
at 42 anymore, so that stinks.
Troy Franklin, wide receiver, going to the Packers right before the Vikings on the clock here, by the way, too.
They can have Troy Franklin.
Okay. So what do you
I
think
comped
here,
Troy
Thor?
Franklin to Marvin Mims.
best player available is Minnesota's own Tyler Nubin. Now Harrison Smith's coming back. I don't know if they're in the mood. If they had let Harrison Smith go, you probably could make a case to take Tyler Nubin here.
I think your case here, you guys, is there a defensive tackle Thor likes?
Yeah, so interior defensive lineman would be one that I'm looking at, and then I'd like to look at the interior offensive line as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then secondary is also something we're going to be sniffing around, specifically cornerback.
So Braden
yeah, he's there. Okay, so he is the heavy front runner right now for this pick. We just have to look and see what there's anyone else that fell through the cracks here.
Here, I didn't know I could do all three of these. So you said interior, defensive line, and edge, or cornerback?
And corner. Yeah, I'd like to see corners as well.
Okay. TJ Tampa is the best cornerback that's available here. Chris Jenkins available here. Zach Frazier, center, is available here. I think we'll probably pass on that.
Yeah, Tampa and Jenkins, I don't think would be bad values in this slot as well. Jenkins was a former Feldman freak lister. But Braden Fiske tested as one of the true freaks in this class in Indianapolis. He's a guy that is going to generate pressure. It's very hard to get your hands on that kid because of the way that he moves. I think he would be a really good fit in this offense and a guy that the Vikings need and Flores needs. We're going to take Fiske.
Let's take him.
All right, let's take Fiske.
Starter day one.
We took him day one. We took him in Purple Daily on draft too, also, I think, in the same spot last Monday.
Love it. Yeah, he's a guy at the end of the day that I think ends up going in the very late first round because of the freakish way that he tested.
Okay.
All right, back in the board, pick 108 here. So we've gotten a defensive lineman. We got our quarterback of the future. What do you want to look here for, Thor? You want to look for a cornerback? Do you want to look for interior line help? Do you want to look for... I'll select a few positions here.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Yep.
So I have wide receiver, interior line, and cornerback all filtered here for the best players on the board. So here's a list. We got a good amount of cornerbacks and wide receivers.
And you guys know that I like Cam Hart. So he would be the leader in the clubhouse right now. Let's just go down a little bit and see who else in this bucket is still here.
Interior line is basically dried up by now.
Yeah. Cooper Beebe would be a decent pick here. I think I still prefer Cam Hart based on what the team needs right now. Yeah, let's go with Cam Hart. I like that player. Yeah.
Brian Flores is very, very pleased with how the offseason is going for him right now.
All right, pick 129 coming up here for the Vikings. So I'll go wide receiver here. We have a deep class. Any of these wideouts do anything for you, Thor?
Yes,
Javon Baker, Cornelius Johnson.
I'm a huge fan of Javon Baker. I have been since the start of the process. We saw him down in Mobile, but he's a kid at UCF. You saw the utility on the deep stuff. He had one of the highest ADOTs in this class, but he's a former 5-star recruit from Alabama. He had to transfer to UCF. That first couple of years of the career had to get on the field, whatever. But he can win at all three sectors of the field. I don't think he gets credit for that. An explosive kid. He's well built. I think that's a guy that would come in and he's immediately going to be your wide receiver 3.
Perfect.
Well, let's take him.
Javon Baker. All right. So we have one more pick left here in this 5-rounder at 167. So Vikings on the clock here coming up. All right. So we've taken quarterback. We've taken interior defensive line. We've taken wide receiver.
So we'd be trying to think the other
for here.
Edge, right, would be probably at the top of the need list right now. Edge and linebacker.
Okay. Well, Brian Flores is happy here, Judd.
Yeah.
Linebacker depth is increasingly important because I think Troy Dye is not signed yet, and I know that does not sound like a big deal, but that's a special teams move as well, Thor. So, yes, linebacker depth of a guy that can step in day one and play special teams would actually be nice to have.
Declan, do me one other favor and also toss running backs in there. This would be about the range where I'd start to consider one if a good one fell down here.
So there are some options filtered in now. So JT Bertrand is the best player available in terms of our sorts. Dylan Johnson and Tyrone Tracy are also now toward the top.
Tracy is a guy that interests me. He started his career at Iowa as a receiver. He transferred to Purdue to become they switched him to running back. At the NFL Combine, he tested as a 99th percentile athlete at right around the size threshold, 4.48 speed, 6'8", 3 cone, 40-inch vertical. And he's a receiving back, right? Like he's the guy who he's going to be a complimentary guy, to, within a committee, whatever. So he's someone I would consider. Bertrand here, I think would deserve heavy consideration as well as far as what the Vikings need. So it would come down to, do you want a guy that projects to potentially be a very good receiving back in the NFL, or do you want to beef up that linebacker room?
I think I vote beefing up the linebacker room, Judd. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're probably right, because again, that comes back to special teams as well, which probably gets ignored at times in mocks, but probably shouldn't be. So yeah, I second Declan's vote. JT Bertrand, Thor.
Yeah, let's go with Bertrand then.
Okay.
All right, boys. That's a 5-round mock here. Let's see what we got for a grade.
Yeah, I got a question too off of this.
Only a C.
Oh, let's see. They hate JJ McCarthy.
A C for the pick, but I will say overall grade an A. They
How
gave
does that get a
us
C grade?
I don't know. They're not grading the trades anymore either.
How does that get a C grade?
I don't know. I mean, at least we got, we had those consecutive weeks of A-, even though every single week we were slaughtering the haul that we got back. At least they've now given us an A. But the C grade for McCarthy is a bit confusing. Do you guys remember where they had McCarthy now ranked on the? I always like to track every week he goes up. Do you guys remember where they had him on the overall thing? I don't know if it stayed stagnant or if it moved up.
No, I didn't look at. No, I don't. I
forgot to check it. The stock mark up on him, but yeah, I obviously I disagree with the C mark there, but overall we got the A. I think it was another successful mock coming off of an early successful free agency period so far for the Vikings. So things are looking good.
All right, question though, boss. I got one for you. Did we do ourselves a disservice by not addressing the guard?
Potentially. We'll have to see how the rest of free agency shakes out. But yeah, I mean, that would be one of the other positions. We could have taken that over the receiver, potentially could have taken that over the linebacker there potentially as well. But yeah, I mean, Javon Baker, he's just the apple of my eye, so I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, well, and at that point in time too, like guards now are being paid a lot.
Yes.
And they are going, it feels like earlier in drafts. So I'm not saying like take a 4th round guard or something. I'm saying that because don't you guys feel like there's at least one more? I don't want to use the word substantial. Don't you guys feel that there's at least one more move to come, like at corner or guard? I feel like there's something before the draft, free agency,
yes.
Second wave type of thing of a guy that's going to compete for a job.
Yeah, 1,000%. And where are we at with Dalton Risner watch? I saw him on the Twitter streets pleading for a contract offer.
This is what he does. He loves to get on Twitter. And here's my question.
Yeah.
I know that the guys that covered him this past year loved him, but my question is, what's up with him? I mean, Denver didn't re-sign him, and he literally sat on the open market into the season. That's not the norm.
No.
Now the Vikings, and I mean, guards were going off the shelves, right? Like Tuesday was a big guard sale. Guys were being paid an exorbitant amount, and Dalton Risner does not have a job. I guess my question is, what's going on behind the scenes that's causing this? It seems odd when it's coupled with the fact that he left the Broncos and just sat there forever.
Yeah, and it seems like the narratives around him, like you mentioned, you're between you and what the truth is. There's these narratives, and it's like smoke and fog. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what the truth is there. When he left the Broncos, and there was that weird thing where they weren't really offering. It was like they wanted him to leave. They weren't giving him the contract offers, whatever. There was the story about how he was it in the fight or the argument in the locker room late in the season with one of his teammates that people were trying to be like, oh, that's why the Broncos are okay with him leaving. That was kind of a weird story, but then it was even weirder that the rest of the NFL wouldn't give a guy who's a starting caliber guard a 1-year contract for a pittance, whatever. I mean, if I'm the Vikings, I give him a 1-year contract, at a baseline amount of money to come back. And Dalton, if you want this, come on back. But it is a bit confusing, and you don't know. You're not inside that room.
Correct.
Right? Like, we look at it from the on-field utility, and we want the team to be better and stuff like that. But we have all worked with people that are not pleasant to be around.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. And he might be the best dude. I don't know. I'm just speaking in general. You just have to sort of toss out theories because it is very confusing why in multiple off seasons now has to go out there panhandling for a contract offer.
So, Thor, how do you feel right now compared to a week ago when there was a ton of unknown? At that point in time, Kirk might have come back. Daniil might have come back. How do you feel right now about where the construction of the roster, very much a work in progress, stands?
I feel tremendous. You had sort of two paths that you could go down. It was like choose your own adventure. One was that you could cap yourself out and give away all your resources and lock yourself into a slightly worse version of what you saw the last 3 or 4 years. And I say slightly worse because Cousins obviously older, coming off the injury, and you don't have any resources to help the rest of the roster, whatever. Or you could get rid of Cousins and reconstitute that position, whatever. Now you have all the cap room and you can do different stuff like that. You have total flexibility to fortify the rest of the roster. I love that they chose to go through the door that they did. They may not have had an option based on the contract that Cousins signed with the Falcons. I don't know if the Vikings had even the cap room to be able to even get close to that. But I like the direction that this is going. And I like within that sort of paradigm that the Vikings found themselves in, that they're sticking to the plan of signing upside guys, only giving out 1-year contracts, or if it's multiple years, it's very sort of team-friendly terms that objective media out there, national media, you look at where they're grading these free agent signings. The Van Ginkel signing got universal acclaim. Some of the other ones where they gave out the 2 or 3 years, they're all getting the B pluses, A-, A on the report cards around the media. So I really like what Kwesi has done. This is all setting up to go up and get the quarterback in April. The plan, at least at the beginning, the groundwork has been laid and they are following it. And I think they're doing a great job.
Dex, got anything else?
Yeah, I like what they've done too, Thor. They've been able to spend. I mean, this is like the first time in like 10 years they've actually been able to have like a decent amount of money to spread around. I know they signed Kirk in 2018, but it's been a long time since they've made a huge impact and were able to throw about a lot of dollars on free agency. So I think their plan's coming together here, and I'm excited for the draft party too.
Yeah, that's right. And if you like what you've seen the first couple of days of this free agency, get your popcorn ready for 365 days from now. The start of free agency next year, it is going to be fire away. Kwesi and the boys are going to have their clips full. They're going to have and they're going to be shooting from the hip. They will have
thanks, KG,
metric ton of cap space, and they're going to be letting it rain from the sky. That's where it gets really interesting, particularly if you choose the right quarterback. Everything falls into place to immediately be able to build up a new contender if you pick the right quarterback, which is why that becomes the most important decision the Vikings franchise has made in a very long time.
If they do this right, to what you just said, Thor, if they do this right, and that's an if, 2025, they could be a Super Bowl favorite.
Yes, 2025 is what you're looking at. Yes, to become that contender again.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to the Vikings have taken a rookie quarterback in the first round during the rookie scale era 2 different times. Christian Ponder, Teddy Bridgewater. Christian Ponder obviously was a bust, whatever. But even in the second year of Christian Ponder, they went 10-6 and they made the playoffs.
Yep.
Not because of Christian Ponder. Christian Ponder was terrible. It's because the rest of the roster was able to be really, really good because you had that rookie scale quarterback. They also made the playoffs in the second year of Teddy Bridgewater. Now imagine if you go from a guy like Christian Ponder to having a league average quarterback, the 16th best quarterback, or gasp, what if they happen to run into a guy that is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL and you're paying him peanuts? Now you have the most cap space in the NFL. You have Justin Jefferson under contract. You have Jordan Addison under contract. You have Christian Darrisaw under contract. Brian O'Neill under contract. You have all the pieces in place. You like your coaching staff. That's where we are off to the races.
You know what? That deserves this. Dex?
The flag.
Cue the music. Cue the band.
All right, the flag. Hold on. Dang it, Judd.
Cue the band.
I don't have everything up.
No, the joy.
Dun, 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 dun.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I don't have that up right now.
This is me and
What's
John
that?
Randall.
Oh, nice. Here. Let's see.
I went to the John Randall football camp when I was 14,
let's see
15
you.
years old. Can you see me?
Hold on.
Am
Is
I
that a
bad?
young you?
That is a young
Thor
Thor
Nystrom.
Nystrom right here.
Look at that. No facial hair.
Look at that.
Look at how young and impressionable you look.
Look at how far we've come.
That is good. Johnny still looks exactly like that, and he looks fantastic.
Exactly
to John
the
Randall's
same.
credit, he looks fantastic.
And I know the audience is saying both those guys look the same. Thank you so much for
Oh
saying
yeah.
that. I wouldn't say
Oh
it
yeah,
about-
you were just chiseled. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, why we call it Thorsday. Declan, tell the people what they need to know.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button, Daily Vikings Entertainment. We'll have a feedback Friday. Mackie will join us with that tomorrow as well. So Mackie back with us on Purple Daily. Thor, thank you, buddy. We'll talk next Thursday.
Appreciate it,
you
guys. Always a pleasure.
In JJ, we trust.
And JJ,
And
we
hit that
trust.
subscribe button. Daily Vikings Entertainment. This is Purple Daily.